Hello, Garland Nixon here, and we're hanging out with Matt Weinglass, and we're finally a tweet from Tulsi Gabbard about the Venezuela stuff. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here, hanging around with Matt Weinglass from the Homeless Left. And let's see, we got a tweet, finally got a tweet from Tulsi Gabbard. And people have been, me and many others have been saying, where's Tulsi Gabbard? Is she going to say something? People have been putting up tweets of hers where she said, President Trump's not going to do regime change. They've been showing videos from her in the past saying, allow Venezuela to choose their own government, on and on, all of these things. So people were waiting to see what she had. Well, we got a tweet from her. Tulsi Gabbard, 3:55 p.m., January 6th. President Trump promised the American people he would secure our borders, confront narco-terrorism, dangerous drug cartels, and drug traffickers. Kudos to our servicemen and women and intelligence operators for their flawless execution of President Trump's order to deliver on his promise through Operation Absolute Resolve. So anyone who thought that she was going to resign, that she was going, because that was her only option, was resign or whatever. But for any of those who thought that now, and when you start going under and you start people seeing what people said, the first thing you see is you're a complete disgrace, a spineless coward. And let's just say it just keeps going on and on and on, where basically people are showing the tweets that she did in the past. How many personalities are you hiding inside of you, Tulsi? You don't believe a word of what you're saying, not a damn word. So, and I'm a guy who I've told many people, I was a big fan of Tulsi Gabbard. And in 2020, when she said I'm running, it was like a Wednesday or a Tuesday. Thursday, I got on a plane and flew to Hawaii, and I was there for her announcement. I was so excited. I was a Tulsi Gabbard fan. In 2016, I was with Fox then. I was in Philadelphia at the convention for Hillary, which, not for Hillary, but Hillary was there. I went on Fox. I was in the tent, and I was on with a couple of people. I think Cavuto was one of them. And they said, well, it's a long ways away. Who do you think would you look forward to in 2020? And this was in 2016 at the end of the convention. And I said, Tulsi Gabbard. They said, why? I said, because I like her foreign policy and she doesn't want war and all that kind of stuff. So I've got a long history of supporting Tulsi Gabbard. And just like that, it's I'm with her. It's hope and change. It's MAGA. We always got some bullshit slogan cooked up from in front of a focus group to sound good. Big, beautiful, build back better, bold bullshit. And in the end, we got Tulsi Gabbard tweet, you gotta love those regime change. Good work, Trump. You're the best. What a piece of crap.
Oh, yeah. No, Garland, this is, we're obviously not shocked to see this tweet. It was coming one of these days, but, and she knows what she signed up for. She knows she's getting that hate right back, but that's why she was selected for this. She's got, as you're indicating, she's got plenty of experience doing this since her run. I think there was a shift where she could vocally back then be against regime change wars. That was kind of her brand. But once she started getting into these higher positions of power, she knew what she was signing up for, and that is to do the exact opposite. That's why she was handpicked for the job. So that's, again, we're not shocked by this, but man, to be okay with that, how do you sleep at night? I mean, we ask this question a lot with our elected officials. How can you sleep at night? But again, she shows these signs well before. I mean, we knew she was taking on the Democratic Party back in 2016. She had this incredible moment against, I think it was against Kamala Harris, this really knockout moment. But at the end of the day, or that was 2020. Yeah, she did end up endorsing Biden. And you're like, how can you do that after everything you did? It was like Bernie again. But again, we expect nothing less from this person and any people that Trump has put into positions of power. they're all going to be war hawks. They're all going to be Zionists. By the way, they're all Zionists too. Regime change wars, except when Israel's, calling the shots. So that's what we've all signed up for, whether you voted for Trump or not. We're all feeling the effects of this now.
There we go. I made up this meme and I put it on my Facebook page. Nicknames for NEOCON. I'm with her. Hope and change. MAGA. It's all the same thing. You know what I mean? Every few years they come up with something. They come up with a new, I'm with her. Man, that sounds great. That's a nice slogan. Hope and change. Oh, that sounded good. And hope for change. Make America great again. Man, they're really good. That's Hollywood there, brother. They come up with that. Then the persona is there. The personality is there. All the things are there that looks like it's real. Remember Trump? I'm going to get rid of the warmongers and the neocons. Judge me by how many wars I don't start. And we're going to have our strong troops, but I'm not going to use them. Then he gets in. And oh, by the way, right now, what is he doing? He's taking pictures with Lindsey Graham with a hat that says "Make Iran Great Again," and he's trying to take out Thomas Massey. That's what you get. Wake up, world! Wake up!
Everything is backwards as far as what MAGA was supposed to be. Again, great meme there, Garland, because you have these expressions, these sayings that were sold to the public. The people that aligned, they came out, they gave their blood, sweat, and tears for these movements. And they all, these are good people who fell for this stuff, right? They understood, they went out for a good reason. They got, these were all bait and switch tactics, but specifically with the MAGA one, it is very frustrating to see how somebody that they believed in was fighting these things. He was brought in 2016, 2017 to challenge the Bush and Cheney regime, right? He's talked about that. They thought that's what you were getting. And now, fast forward to the second term, it's like on steroids, the same regime all over again. It is Bush and Cheney all over again. And we know what we got with Obama and Hillary. We know what we're getting every time with these slogans. I'll date Obama on this one. I remember the John Kerry one. Of course, he lost the second round with Bush and Cheney. But he had I remember him and Edwards on the stage, and they said, "Help is on the way." They were like this duo that was going to come save you. But this, it's all about we can all get together and peace and love and joy. Let's not forget joy. That's a good one. That's the Kamala Joy one. Joy's going to save the world, bring everyone together. While the neocon policies stay the same. And that's the big reveal. People need to understand policy is exactly the same. It's just how you market it to your base. That's the only thing that changes, but the policy itself is exactly the same.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so what we've got now is Americans, just need to, if you don't wake up now, you can go on X where there's free speech. For 99% of the people are bots. You go on X and anything that you see, there's going to be 500 bots underneath saying, yay, go, Zionism is wonderful. Regime change is the best. And there's like somebody from India who has like no followers and, whatever, and a fake AI page or whatever. So the idea that Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, was going to bring you free speech, all of the implausible arguments that we are fed. The richest man in the world is here to save us and bring us free speech. The Trump is going to fight the neocons. Tulsi Gabbard is going to stand up for any of them. Might I add? I give you 2 words. Kash Patel. I know where the bodies are hidden. They don't want me in there. And then they have this pretend pillow fight, or what kills me? Even to really, if you ask me, it was part of the show. They pretended like they were fighting whether or not they were going to have enough votes to get Tulsi in, or they were going to have enough votes to get Kash Patel in. There was like this pillow fight. No, I don't know. Well, we have to make a bargain to get him in. Kash Patel gets in, and he's got a girlfriend. And then next thing you know, there's no Epstein list. There is an Epstein list. Nobody's on the Epstein list. We get blank pages. That's the Epstein list. Then all of a sudden, Charlie Kirk was killed by some guy, is a trans shooter with a magic bullet. And you're looking at him, and he's like, this really is my girlfriend.
Yeah.
I believe That's really is his girlfriend, in the same way that I believe some trans activist shot some guy in the neck with a freaking elephant gun, and the bullet set behind his neck and in his skin like he'd shot him with a BB from like a Daisy Red Ryder BB gun.
Yeah, and don't forget, he also wrote an entire essay about it minutes after and broadcasted it out to the world, because that's what happens, obviously, when you text out your entire plan, like a novel. So that happened as well. Let's not forget Dan Bongino as well, or we should call him Dan. I've seen the tapes. He killed himself, Bongino. He went back to his base, Rumble and Twitter, and what he's doing is he's not saying, "Hey guys, sorry, things didn't go the way I wanted to." He's saying it's your fault. He's saying the people that supported him going in there with cash, it's their fault because they got too black-pilled. So he wanted this Trump train of Democrats are the only ones we're going to blame for everything. Which was the thing. That's the idea, is that you say we're gonna take on this corrupt Biden government for the last 4 years, and we're gonna show them who's boss. But the black pill, what he's referring to, the black pilling, is when his own base realizes, wait a minute, you can't tell us that Epstein killed himself because you saw the tape, and if he didn't, you would tell us the truth. That's not going to work, because we know that you're hiding something. It's very obvious you're hiding something. That's what I guess that's the term black pilled means. We're suspicious of everything, and I think that's the part that they can't make any sense of it. So all you have left to do is attack the people that got you there because they're calling you out for what it is. Or you can be like Tulsi and just ignore and just act like you're not being called out. Maybe that's the better way to go.
Well, let's see. Let's look at her tweet. Let's dissect it. President Trump promised the American people he would secure our borders. Starting a war or doing all kinds of crazy shit in South America is what caused us to have border problems in the first place. You destabilize the region, and then all these people come front. How about NAFTA? Over 1 million Mexican farmers lost their farms because of NAFTA and showed up at the border. So he promised he'd secure our borders. Yeah, just go and start borders all over the place in that area. Certainly won't have any effect on the borders, MAGA, Matt.
Yeah.
Confront narco-terrorism. Well, that's an absolute lie. That has nothing to do with Maduro. Dangerous drug cartels, nothing to do with Maduro. Drug traffickers, nothing to do with Maduro. All lies cooked up. If he wanted to stop drug traffickers, he'd be dealing with the CIA. He shut down the CIA. Kudos to our service. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, let's look at that part, because in this indictment, it's like this 25-page indictment. The charges don't make any sense on the surface level. Everything is written really like sloppily. To begin with, they got the language problem on the very first page, first paragraph. They're saying they mixed up export with import. So that lawyers haven't really looked at this closely. But look at the charges themselves. The weapons charge, that's insane. You're talking about you want to charge a sitting president with having machine guns or having weapons at all. Every sitting president is the head of their own military. So to think that we have a problem with a president having access to ammunition or guns or machine guns in this case, it's insane to put that on the charges. And then, of course, you mentioned we're talking about the cartel charges. That is all theater. It's completely theater. And the New York Times had to admit this yesterday, right after the hearing started. They put out that the Cartel de los Sols, which is the cartel of the Suns, that's the indication that he was it set up the arrest in the first place, or we know as a kidnapping, that you had this on his head, the bounty that was on his head, the $50 million. This was all about, he was tied to this cartel. But they had to admit, after getting him in, captive and put into this court situation, they had to remove it. So the DOJ has removed this charge because they had to admit that the Cartel de los Sols doesn't actually exist. But the thing that they won't tell you, Garland, is that the Cartel de los Sols did exist because it was created by the CIA in the 1980s Reagan era. It was created in order to funnel drugs into the U.S. There's documentation. This is fact. This is not just speculation. And that's why they had to drop the charge. The charge was on there originally so they could have the excuse to have enough material to justify the kidnapping and bringing him in. So that charge is officially been removed. And they're saying, and New York Times is admitting that it doesn't exist. But we know it was created by the CIA.
How about this? Count 2 of this superseding indictment: knowingly used and carried firearms, and in furtherance of such crimes knowingly possessed firearms and aided and abetted the use, carrying, and possession of firearms, to wit, machine guns that were capable of automatically shooting more than one shot without manual reloading by a single function of a trigger, as well as destructive devices, in violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 924C1. In violation of United States Code, he had machine guns in Caracas in violation of United States Code. Why didn't you just charge him with speeding on the New Jersey Turnpike? What the hell? And by the way, he was doing 180 miles an hour on the New Jersey Turnpike in Caracas, and he was, I don't know what the hell else. You look at that and you say to yourself, what manner of banana republic bullcrap, what kind of idiot looks at that and says, yeah, that's a good idea, let's put that in there. That doesn't think that everybody's going to look at it and say, well, you can't. But that's Julian Assange. Julian Assange violated United States laws, not United States. It is hegemony. We rule the planet. You could be on the moon. Why not? If like you saw a picture of somebody on the moon, like from Russia or China or something, they had something you didn't like, in violation of United States code, they did do this and such on the moon.
This is the pick and choose method we're seeing when it's convenient to say U.S. law, when it's not. This part's also not convenient to say U.S. law was broke, but because if you're going to apply it there, why don't you apply it to the humiliation ritual? You're not allowed to do that. That's a crime. If you want to talk about U.S. law being broken, you can't parade a prisoner around from a leader of another country. You can't kidnap him or arrest him or whatever you want to call it and parade him around in public, which they did. They left the back of the truck open, and so New Yorkers could watch as Maduro was humiliated through the streets of New York on the way to Manhattan to the courthouse. That's also illegal. So again, it's picking and choosing when it's international law, when it's U.S. law. None of it makes any sense, but we know that this entire thing is a big, huge violation of international law, just the entire way it went about being done. And we know that our public officials, our media is 100% guilty in protecting this narrative and not calling it out, not doing, you mentioned Julian Assange, not having real journalism done, because we know that the New York Times and the Washington Post, they did their job of protecting this entire illegal operation from the beginning, as they kept this information from the public, which they've been very good at doing, Garland. They've gotten very good over the years at protecting information from getting to the public, which I thought was the opposite of what journalism is supposed to do. So everyone's playing their part in this entire piece of theater that we're seeing unfold before our eyes.
I mean, if you're in court, I have to ask in front of the judge, I have to ask the prosecution team, can weed is illegal in Mississippi? Can Mississippi State Police come to Maryland and arrest everybody in a dispensary for selling weed in violation of Mississippi laws? Clearly, the answer is no. And then I would ask them, why? Why can't they?
Yeah.
Tell the court why it is that somebody from Mississippi can't come to Maryland. Tell us why. Explain that principle to us, the principle of venue. So tell us why they couldn't do it. Now, you can't come from Mississippi to Maryland to arrest someone for weed, but you can drive across several different countries. You can go through Mexico and Panama, whatever the country, Guatemala, El Salvador, keep on going till you get to Venezuela. And then in a separate country, you can say that you violated Maryland. What other law? Is it pretty much all laws, U.S. laws? Where else? Is there anywhere on earth that U.S. laws can't? Well, why don't we just read over our laws? We can go around the world and just say wherever we want. It is preposterous. It is absurd. It is imperialism. It is saying that you can do it. But again, I got to go back to the beginning. Trump said he wasn't going to do it, but that was all lies. Yeah. But what's worse than Trump? Because, I I don't think anybody's shocked that Trump is a liar. I don't think anybody's going to grab their chest and fall to the ground. But when I look at Dan Bongino, and when when I look at Kash Patel, especially in Tulsi, those are the two that I look at. Because you guys, man, I'll put it like this. If I look at Kash Patel, that deer in the headlights stupid look that he has on his face right now, he didn't have that. He had a look of somebody who knew what he was talking about, a resolute look, a knowledgeable look. And he had details and he had facts and he sounded like us. And in fact, he was going on like Jimmy Dore's show. I don't know if he went on Jimmy's show. I think he did. But he was going on various shows and he sounded like us. Look, this is what happened and this is what they did and it's illegal and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, man, that's great. You know, he knows what time it is. He knows what's going on. If I get in there, and people believed because he was so credible, because he made it clear that he knew what was going on and he understood it. He was very, very credible. And then when he got it, and he gets the deer in the headlights and he's playing stupid. You know what I mean? Yeah, Kash Patel's playing stupid. He's a very smart man, very knowledgeable. He knows the details. He's playing dumb. And then Tulsi, who goes for all of these years, then all of a sudden, great job. Yes, sir. Well, I'll go along. You know, I know, we all know that this drug cartel thing is a lie, but I'm willing to play along with it.
Well, in this case now, you know, so Kash Patel being called out by his own base, that was good to see. I liked seeing that. That was good. They saw that expression change. They saw the sweat going down his face. You saw the memes with the deer in headlights. He looked like they had a whole thing about the way you can tell somebody's, you know, whether you're on whatever drug you're on or whether you're Kash Patel, you can see there's your face changes. So whatever substance that is you're on. We're not seeing this as much at all from the NEOCON base. That is the MAGA base. And it's really, it's frightening in the sense that you would hope that you had people that already said, look, the Epstein list is BS. Charlie Kirk is BS. They're ready to call out the next thing. But the problem is the way the NEOCON voter is wired, they are willing to get in line with this because they're so easily fooled and duped by the China narrative, by the communism narrative, by the we have to protect our border narrative. They have no idea how imperialism works at all. They have no idea why we even put sanctions on countries. They won't deny that. They just don't understand the results of those sanctions. You can talk to them for hours about it. They won't see it. And it's so frustrating that, again, we had this kind of strike one, you know, Epstein, strike two, Charlie Kirk. This should be strike three, but it's not. They're going along with it. And it shows you how we were fooled when we thought that they aligned with us back in the Ukraine war, right? We were like, oh, look at our fellow right-wing friends who have learned how to become anti-war since the Bush and Cheney years. They've learned how to say, this is not okay. We're being duped. We're being lied to. This is called manufactured consent. We were all together on that with Ukraine. Problem was, we didn't realize at the time, and we're talking about like Rage Against the War Machine, right? This is February 2023, 1 year into the Russia-Ukraine war. We didn't realize that they were only out there with us because of their principle was, no, regime change wars are great. You know, American imperialism is awesome. Yay, capitalism. We have to go impose our might around the world. We only have a problem if it costs too much and it takes too long to do. That's it. And we didn't see that. So that's on us. But yes, this should have been a third strike. Unfortunately, it's not. It's actually doing the opposite. It's reeling them right back in. And they've totally forgotten about Epstein and Charlie Kirk.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll put it like this. I know a lot of people that voted for Trump. I didn't vote for him. I voted for Jill Stein. And my position was, you know what? I don't trust any of these people. And at the time I said, I think Trump will be better. Who knows? You know, you couldn't be worse than what's her name. I felt we'd get nuked if Kamala Harris won. But I wasn't going to vote for him because I've been burned so many times, you know, Obama and all. I said, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. And my vote's not going to change it one way or the other, but I'm not voting for one of the people in these two parties because whatever comes of it is usually bad and I don't want my name on it. So, okay, fine. Let's see what happens. And, you know, Kamala Harris probably shouldn't win, but I didn't vote for no. So I'm glad that I can say, well, you know what? I did say we'd be better off with Trump, but I didn't vote for him. So I feel good. Not that it matters and not that they really care, because ultimately what Americans have to learn also is this. I don't care how sincere they seem. If they're a Democrat or a Republican, okay, if somebody votes for a third party or independent or something, okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt from now on. But if you think that you're going to vote for JD Vance or something like that, or some other upstart Democrat or something like that, if you think you're voting for one of these people and anything they tell you is true, you just, I don't even know what to say to you. You've completely, I mean, can they get, I'll just say again, really? Don't complain.
Yeah. And I'll add the media to that. It's like, once you know that the news pundits aren't actually journalists and they're propagandists, how do you unlearn that? I don't know how you go back and pretend you didn't get that during COVID. You figured it out during COVID, right? Didn't you figure out that Rachel Maddow had a script and Sean Hannity had a script, and they told you to get your shot and they told you it was safe and effective? And where did they get that information from? Well, that was the people paying them. That was their advertisers, and they had to say it. Didn't you figure that out? How were you able to buy this garbage? And again, this should have been a third strike with Venezuela, but they're buying the CIA narrative like hook, line, and sinker. They're saying, look at all those Venezuelans celebrating. They're celebrating all over the world. I'm seeing this going out, and this is not just the neocon. This is the libs, the shit libs too, Garland. These guys, they're all doing it. Even the ones that hate Trump, they're saying, well, Trump is mean and rude, and he's kind of lies a lot. But if he would back off on that, we could enjoy celebrating this big accomplishment. I'm literally hearing Trump derangement syndrome people say this right now here in Hollywood. They're celebrating Maduro's capture, and they're doing it with no regard to that. They're just putting out these CIA talking points and sharing them out and being just like cheerleaders for this crap. We know what's going on the ground in Caracas. We know what's happening there. There's real reporting happening. They can see that there's this actual alignment. And this part people don't know this, Garland, but there's an alignment on the ground in Caracas right now between the Chavistas, the pro-Maduro, and the anti-Maduro crowd. They're coming together. I kid you not. This is happening because they are aligned with the concept that the U.S. is interfering with their country, their government, and they can hate Maduro, but it's not an outside entity's responsibility to come in and bring democracy back, because we know that doesn't happen. They know that doesn't happen, and the streets are chaos. And anybody that's telling you right now that the Venezuelans around the world are so happy because now they can travel back there, that's not possible. It's not a good situation right now. This is not done. We know that the drone strikes are continuing. We know that obviously the People's Militia has had to take into the streets. The collectivos are out right now. It's not safe at all. This is going to be going on at least for another month or two, and it's not anything that people would really be celebrating. If you see people celebrating right now, that's fake news. That is coming from all these other different sources, different countries, different situations, and they're being packaged on. Some of them are AI videos, by the way, and they're being packaged as news right now. And you guys have to look closer at this and understand that this is not what's actually happening there right now on the ground. And you can hate Maduro, but you can hate the U.S. empire even more. And that's way more accurate of an assessment.
And let me just say this, for those who may wondering my position, this was 2 days ago. I made a video, failure, Trump's Venezuela debacle, why most of the pundits are wrong. It was why most of the pundits are wrong. Hello, Garland Nixon here, and it's Sunday. And this will be a U.S. disaster. That's what I said. Exactly what you're saying. You know why I said that? Because I've been there.
Yep.
And one of the things I talked about was this. One of the things I talked about was when I met with the opposition. And probably at least half of most of the opposition, the United States, they said this. The United States, to me personally, the U.S. Had said to them when the election came, don't participate because we don't want you to dignify this election, blah, blah, blah. And they said, we ran. because we believe we want to have a chance to win. So we don't listen to the U.S. They also said those sanctions don't hurt us. I would call them a patriotic opposition, people who said, oh, we don't like Maduro, but we want to just run and try to win. We don't want some other country sanctioning us and pushing us around, right? Those are the people now who are in the streets with the Chavistas. And what Americans don't realize is, I don't have anything against Maduro. It's like, I know people who say, Putin is a dictator. And I say, really? Yes. Tell me why. My experience, I've worked with Russians for 7 years. I've been to Russia. Seems the opposite to me. How can you be a dictator if the people in the country love the ground you walk on? And they don't know. All they know is Putin's a dictator. Maduro's a dictator. How do you know that? He gets about 64% of the vote, and the poor people all love him because their lives were living hell when they were under CIA puppet dictators, and they will all tell you that. He is beloved by the poor. He's not liked by the rich minority that the U.S. is trying to put in power, but they won't be able to put him in power there. And the opposition doesn't hate his guts. They're conservatives, and they have a right to be. But they're Venezuelans and they just want to run. So why would I even have anything against Maduro, a former bus driver? Seems like a nice enough guy to me. So my point is this. They're just on board with the regime change. All they're waiting is for somebody, some John Bolton-esque figure to tell them, yeah, the guy over in Greenland. What's that next? Hey, Greenland's run by Denmark and Denmark is run by, let me guess, a dictator. What do you want to bet that the leader of Denmark will soon be claimed to be a dictator, and he'll probably be accused of killing somebody with Novichok? The odds are somebody in Denmark's going to die of Novichok, and they're going to say the dictator killed him.
Oh yeah, and they're going to say there was maybe take the Assad route and say that he did chemical attacks on his own people. Whatever you got to come up with, right?
He's important drugs, whatever kind of drugs comes from Denmark. I don't know what the hell, but he's important drugs too.
Yeah. So what we have to do is stop taking these words seriously. Dictator. It's a subjective term, by the way. It's no different than anti-vaxxer or anti-Semitic or conspiracy theorist for that matter. Terrorist. How about that? Terrorist. It's very similar to the word terrorist. Haven't we learned our lesson by now that we can deem anything we want? We can call it a name, label it a thing, and then it gives us that ability to break the rules and how we deal with that thing. And then everybody goes along with it because, the thing, right? The dictator, right? Terrorist, right? Whatever the thing is. So let's stop using these words as factual, labels, because they're not. What is dictator? So if you know how to define the word dictator, then you should be able to define the opposite of that word, which I assume is something to do with a democracy. What does that look like? Give me an example what a non-dictator looks like, so then you can define what it actually is. You can't do it. You can't do it because there's not really an example of it anywhere. Everything is subjective. Everything is comparable, and everything is, by the way, everything is propaganda and marketing. You have to package these things every time. There's always a marketing budget. You never have a thing where there's zero for marketing ever. So let's also be clear about that. People don't want to admit that they've been propagandized. I get it. There's an ego problem there. I get it. I'm not dumb enough to be tricked. We're not just talking about being tricked. We're talking about marketing. It's marketing 101. There's no movie, and this is from Hollywood. There's no movie that's ever been pushed on the public that didn't have a marketing budget. How do we get you in the seats? We put together a package, a visual display, something to get you excited about, and it'll get you in the seat. Now a movie's not going to kill you. It's just, at worst, it's going to take two and a half hours of your life from you. So you don't think about it as a big deal. But guess what? They got you in the seat. They did that. That's not a strike on you, but they did that. So don't pretend that there's no marketing budget to sell Venezuela to you, to sell Maduro is a dictator to you. Don't pretend for a second that there's not going to be a marketing budget to sell Greenland and Denmark and Colombia and Mexico
and Canada
and Iraq. Iran, all of them, and Cuba. Don't forget Cuba. There's a marketing budget ready to go for all of them. All right, so we just need to understand that.
Oh yeah, and and oh, by the way, there's a marketing budget for the bots. There's a marketing budget. So on X, there's 500,000 guys that as soon as somebody says Maduro's a dictator. 500,000 people within 1/1,000,000th of a second will all tweet, yeah, he's a dictator. Oh, look at that. Here's a picture. Here's an AI video, whatever. As soon as you say something about Zionists, you're a anti-Semite scumbag because you don't like Zionists. You hate all Jews. Get out of here, you Jew hater. This person, as soon as you say whatever, there's a huge budget, up to $7,000 per post.
There it is.
That says you're saying things that the machine does not allow. You must be attacked. You must be deplatformed. You must be called an anti-vaxxing, white supremacist, Putin-loving, whatever the hell. You know what I mean? They got all the names are already teed up too. There you go. You're all of the above. Check, because you didn't go along with the government. And for those of us who don't ever go along with the government because we always know they're lying, kudos to everybody in the chat who says, yeah, I knew this was a bunch of crap all along. Tulsi Gabbard. This should be the great lesson, I think, that you can't, to some extent, you can't vote your way out, that the people have to understand that the only way out is for us to be powerful and for us to take power from bottom up, because the people top down are going to give you Tulsi Gabbard. They're going to give you some cockamamie story about some guy getting shot in the neck with a freaking elephant gun and he had a magical spine. They always got something for you. By the way, anything new on Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, while we're all distracted with Venezuela and no one's thinking about Charlie Kirk, Candace is still doing her work. She's still putting out some information. We just got yesterday, she gave us an update on the Hamptons debacle. If you guys remember, there was this incident that she had information of, and she wasn't the only one. Candace wasn't the only one reporting on this at the time. Max Blumenthal covered this. So a lot of different outlets were covering that Bibi Netanyahu had called Charlie Kirk while they were in the Hamptons. And that's when the offer to upgrade Turning Point happened. And so she wasn't giving her source out at the time. And of course, anytime that Candace doesn't give you name the names, then she's looked at as she's just making stuff up. But here's what's happened since. So she's told us that in that, do you remember the 4.5-hour conversation she had privately with Erica? She's told us now that Erica validated that happened, that Bibi did actually call, because she was there. So she said, I was there in the Hamptons when Netanyahu called her husband. And so what happened on that call is debatable as far as what Erica's saying, but Candace named a name, Andrew Colvin. That's the person who told Candace, and she's told, this is public information now. We are to be, we know now that Charlie got this offer from Netanyahu in the Hamptons, and he said no. And that's was a, let's just say, call it a turning point for Charlie Kirk in that moment. So again, this isn't the first, this isn't the big focus right now. But luckily there's people still doing the work on this. We're still working on it. We got people looking at some stuff, and we're hoping that we can get any more traction with this in the coming weeks here as we begin 2026 here, Garland.
Well, here's something interesting too, and that is, I am Joe skeptical, and again, it goes back to my actual law enforcement and being an investigator and teaching investigations. I learned to be skeptical of everything. It's only logical until you can confirm something you don't know, right? And I was talking to someone now. What we're hearing is that they had snuck in some special forces days before, and they were hiding in the city, and they attacked from the ground, right? Because I was talking to Alex Trainer the other day, and he says, well, the helicopters. I said, I don't even believe that. He said, what do you mean? I said, what do we know? We saw pictures of helicopters flying over some city with palm trees. Could that have been AI video? Could they have taken pictures of helicopters flying over freaking San Juan and just said, there you go? You know what I mean? Just because I see some pictures of helicopters flying over palm trees does not mean that they're telling me the truth about that video. I'm scared. Now, I'm not saying it's possible. It is theoretically possible that those are the right videos and that was over Caracas. But just because I see the videos and the government says, here's the video of helicopters flying, doesn't mean that I believe it. I have not confirmed it. And now we're finding out other things. And then, of course, the PSYOP. The PSYOP is, yes, there was lots and lots of traitors. And Delcy Rodriguez, she's a traitor. Well, now we're finding out that Delcy Rodriguez, because Trump, remember, we talked to her and she's going to do the right thing and we're going to run it. The implication was we talked to her and she's going along with it. And so she's the sellout. She's the traitor, which I've met her before. And I'm like, I don't believe that. But now we find out she's out there saying, oh, hell no. No, 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 we will resist. This is our country, blah, blah, blah. If you listen to them and you believe Trump's psyop, bullcrap, what do you call it? Press conference, you would think they did this and they got on the phone and they said, we're sending people in. And then the Venezuelan government said, yes, masters, whatever you want, please come take the oil. Now you find out the only thing you did was snatch one guy and off you go. My point is, whether it's Charlie Kirk, whether it's any of these, what they're really good at doing is giving you a narrative. And even from the very beginning, you must be skeptical of the narrative. When you get the narrative, you will always you have to be patient and say, let's wait a couple weeks. Let's wait 30 days and look back on this narrative and see how that looks. Not, oh, did you hear about the narrative? Here's where it is. I don't accept the narrative, whether it's COVID. I don't accept the narrative ever. And I don't accept the latest narrative on the latest thing, which, oh, by the way, did I mention, weren't they supposed to drop some Epstein papers Friday? And conveniently, they just happened to do a thing where they sucked up all of the news and people forgot that on Friday, they had an Epstein issue that they found a way to distract us from.
I mean, sometimes we double book appointments, Garland, so I give them the benefit of the doubt on that one. But we'll get back to Epstein in a second, but you mentioned Delcy Rodriguez, and I just want to point this out. I'm glad you brought this up, but like, she's somebody who you would say, let's look at the timeline. So she was the VP for Maduro since 2018. And then you had Maduro, who had been taken office few years before that, 2013, after Chavez had mysteriously died of cancer. I'm going to do cancer in quotes now, because that's just what they tell us. We know. And Maduro actually has said out loud publicly, he said that the CIA poisoned Chavez in 2013. Anyways, but that aside, looking at the timeline, isn't it interesting that the Cartel of the Sun charge, this idea that this group that Maduro was connected to, they said because he came into power in 99, they made up a story of the Cartel of the Sun being created in 99. In other words, giving him full responsibility as vice president, that he's fully responsible for the actions of this cartel, even though we know it was created in the 80s by the CIA. Isn't it interesting that they blame him as VP in 99 and fabricated the story that he was part of that and Chavez in 99? Yet, when you look at, and this is where I'm drawing a connection here, if you look at Delcy Rodriguez and her start as VP in 2018, and you're telling the world that this is an illegitimate president, Maduro, wouldn't that make her guilty by association? So shouldn't just the notion that you're even willing to consider her as the acting president makes no sense if you're following this code of, in political office, VP or president, you are responsible for the actions of your president or of yourself and the nefarious stuff you do, quote unquote.
How about this? And this pisses me off about some of these MAGA people. Okay, you had a number of things. You had Trump, if I'm not mistaken, it was the Southern District of New York or whatever it is, right? Where they went after him. And all of us who don't even like Trump said, hey, that ain't right. They're making up charges against Trump. They're changing the laws so people can go after him. They're concocting charges about 2020. He had every right to say, whether you disagreed with him or agreed with him, it was protected speech for Donald Trump to say, I think I was had. He had every right. And we said, this is bullshit. This is wrong. And we even said, you're going to, number one, you're helping Trump anyway. But number two, it's wrong. And Trump has a right to run, and he has a right to say, I think I lost. I remember saying, you know what? It's a fundamental part of democracy that the loser has a right to say, I want a free count, that the loser has you don't have a democracy if the losing party can't challenge it and say, I think I've been had. And there was reasons to look at it at every election we have and say, I don't trust the damn machines. Okay. When they tried to call Trump every Russian bot in the world, there I was screaming. I don't know how much I heard from the friggin' liberals. No, you're a Trump lover. I'm like, this is bullcrap. That's a CIA operation on you. So my point is, when Trump was being treated unjustly, notwithstanding my feelings for Trump one way or the other, I stood for justice for Trump. I said, hey, you know, I brought up how they charged him in the Southern District of Florida and all of these people and all of the things that I covered that like I would cover anything else because it was injustice. Now, Trump, in the same court that they unjustly went after him with lawfare, the exact same court where we defended Donald Trump, he's doing the exact same thing to somebody else. He's cooking up some bull crap charges that he knows is a lie just because he wants to take that down politically. That is like the worst contradiction ever.
So we have to start looking at our elected officials when they get into power, whatever role they're playing, whatever costume they have to put on in that moment, red, blue, or whatever color it is, they're what they have gotten assigned to. It's like, we got to start thinking like this. It's an acting ensemble, and they just made the cut. So Trump came in as the next actor. It's like the Whose Line Is It Anyways political, special. And you got, but this is every year. This is every 4 years, next president. So his role that he played during those trials, that was fake, as you said, those were fake. That was a misdemeanor times by 37 and added to felonies. None of that made any sense. The role he was playing was defending that. Now he's playing the role of contriving other stuff, concocting other stuff against someone else. It's just an ensemble of actors. Rotate your spot on the stage. Yes, and freeze in. If it's freeze tag, be ready to come in and play the next role so you don't lose your audience.
Let me add this. Okay, MAGA people. Okay, so you like Trump and you think he's there and he's great and all that, but then he goes against what he said he was going to do and what you said you were going to want it from him. They're not there to love Trump. He's rich and you ain't. You're there to say, I elected you to represent me, and you're doing the opposite. As an example, I have been a Tulsi Gabbard supporter. Oh, I was such a big Tulsi person. I supported Tulsi. I believed in Tulsi. I was so happy. I was like, well, you know what? There's a lot of things going on, but at least Trump's got Tulsi Gabbard. So I've supported Tulsi Gabbard and all, but not because I love Tulsi Gabbard, but because I believed there was a possibility that she may support the policies that I advocated for. Now that she's done a 180, I got no support for her. This was never about me loving. I don't know her. She's a married woman. Hopefully she's happily married. I'm not trying to date or marry Tulsi Gabbard. Never. I mean, I came kind of close to her, maybe 10 feet away from her, and saw her in person, and she smiled and seemed like a nice person at the time. But now that I know that she's just another, flip-flopping, flapjacking politician, screw her. I got no love for her. I'm like, and it's not just her. It's, you represent this thing, and I know what this thing is, Tulsi, so you mean nothing to me. I know now, you and Kash Patel, I know what you people are. You mean nothing to me.
Yeah. And you know who else all these people mean nothing to? Everybody watching from outside of our country. Everybody sees it. They see that we're captured, and they don't have any hate against us. They think of us as innocent victims, some of us that don't have a say in this. We just have to, I mean, obviously you and I, we're doing our best having these conversations, but the average American has been duped, and people see that. And we see other leaders stepping up. We see President Petro in Colombia calling this imperialist machine a band of pedophiles that are running the world. They know what's happening. This is not just a line that we're saying on our shows, that we're just saying, oh, it's just a distraction of Epstein. It really is. When you have somebody like Maduro calling out imperialism, calling out Israel, by the way, calling out the petrodollar. These are the things that are no-nos, and they come after you. And when you're not on that list, guess who ends up in jail? Look at that. Look at how easy it is to capture a president of a country that's 1,300 miles away, Garland, but we still can't get a single Epstein client arrested in cuffs living in this country. We can't do that. So people see that outside of here, and they said there's obviously something bigger, more nefarious happening, and they're all protecting each other. And like I said earlier, they're all playing their roles in this little ensemble troupe, and they have a lot of us fooled, not all of us here fooled, but I think the rest of the world is onto it, and they can see it. And when you speak up against it, that's when you become the next target.
Well, here's the thing, Netanyahu's here and he leaves. And then 48 hours later, the Epstein file, there's something, I forgot what was supposed to drop Friday or something, some new Epstein file information, or they had to tell the judge why they had to redact stuff, whatever it was, something to do with the Epstein files was supposed to drop Friday. Netanyahu's here like Tuesday or Wednesday. And what do you know? An event happens that distracts us completely and totally away from the Epstein files. Nobody's talking about the Epstein files. Now, I heard someone say, and it makes sense. They said, look, they ain't attacking Iran. In fact, guess what? I read in Russian news that Bibi Netanyahu has sent messages to the Russians. We're not attacking Iran. That's in the Russian news, that he sent messages to President Putin. We're not doing, just to say we ain't attacking Iran, right? Here's the thing, though. The speculation that I heard, and this was before Netanyahu got, from a person who's pretty well informed. They said Netanyahu's not coming here to talk about Iran. That that's just a cover, because they know everybody will buy that and everybody will talk about that. This person said Netanyahu's coming here to talk about the Charlie Kirk issue, which is devastating to them, and Epstein. That he's coming to talk. And what happens? Something happens. Even look, think about this. So what if Maduro gets off if he doesn't get off? So what? They ain't getting the oil, whatever. Okay, Trump, what is he? You think he's going to leave those ships over there? Trump. Just like what's his name? Just like the Houthis. We're going to blow the Houthis to smithereens. 30 days later, he's like, okay, they lost. They give up and leave. Trump will just leave. He'll just wake up one day and say, yeah, okay, tell the ships to move on. Let's go off the coast of Greenland or something. That's what he'll do. I wouldn't shock me. But nobody's talking about Netanyahu other than us. Nobody's talking about Epstein anymore. Nobody's talking about Charlie Kirk anymore. So could that, do you think I'm out in space with those kinds of speculations?
No, there was absolutely a face-to-face Netanyahu needed to have, and we're talking about, it was the 5th trip, but it was probably the most important of all 5 was this last one, because you had to coordinate on the calendar. It's all about the calendar. These aren't accidents. We make fun of the Friday thing, but this is all. So there's an order of operation, right? So Venezuela becomes the warm-up for Iran, right? But during that entire timeline, you have successfully distracted from Charlie Kirk and successfully distracted from Epstein. So that definitely required a face-to-face. And I believe that those were the talking points in that meeting. The part that we didn't see, but the part we saw was the standing ovations and the fake Israel prize he got. But he was still, Trump was still upset about not getting that Nobel Peace Prize. And I thought that was pretty funny because he made Maria Coronavirus Machado pay for that one. And now apparently she's giving him, she wants to give him half the prize because, she feels left out to the side. But the point is, yes, Netanyahu coming here, it's not his little brother. I've heard that, like, oh, he's like our little, no, he's not our little brother. He's coming here to say there's an order of operations. There's these things, there's these check boxes that we have to check off, and we have to do it in this order. And so that's what that was. That was a team huddle to keep the power where it is and to keep the rest of us where we are.
Look, if you think about it, this Charlie Kirk thing is devastating. Everybody knows Israel was involved, and things are coming out. The mysterious planes, the Egyptian plane. There's things that are coming out that this meeting at this base Huachaka or whatever the crap it was, right? Things are coming out that seem to be, have some validity to it. That just, if it was a trans activist, they wouldn't make any sense. And people are on to Erica Kirk. I think they're on to her. So it would seem to me, and Netanyahu, now they know he made the phone call. You look, that's just coming out. It could have been, did that come out before or after he came?
No,
in?
It was out, but the fact that we now know that Erica Kirk is validating that the call happened and that she was there for it. That's crazy because they were denying it the whole time that it even happened. She's trying to say now that the call was not necessarily him asking about she's saying, no, it's not, the call didn't include that. So I'm not, but again, we have names that have been named that we know that Candace is saying that it was Andrew Colvett who gave her that information, that Charlie actually was asked about this upgrade by Netanyahu, and he said respectively, no, I don't want that. And we know that's the timeline in which he started turning on Israel. And we know that Charlie Kirk was Israel's greatest asset moving into the next generation, the post-MAGA generation era. He was the greatest asset. So you're going to start challenging Israel. You're going to go from the greatest asset to the greatest liability. There's your motive right there. You have to do damage control before it gets bad. It is. That's it.
Yeah. If you think about it, it was getting back a little too close to him. You know what I mean? It's like, crap, they're getting too real close to me. I gotta have a talk with Trump to make sure that something's got to happen, because it's getting too close to me. And of course, people are getting too hip to Erica Kirk. The more they look at her, man. And I'm not the kind of guy, I want to be reasonable. Somebody lost their husband, I want to be fair and say, hey, I don't want to jump the gun. But how many things start to add up? How many things have to add up before you say, wait a minute here? Why is it? Let's see. Zelensky is a former actor. She was an actress. Everybody's an actor. She's got at like 17 years old, she's got an organization for children in Romania. Who the hell even knows where Romania is when they're 17 years old? She didn't do that. She didn't create that. And you look at it and everybody's like, wow, that's weird. What the hell? She met him in Israel. She was in Trump's, what was it? Trump's a beauty contest. And you look at all that and everybody's like, something's fishy here. Oh, what do you know? Let's go grab Maduro. I can't think of anything they could have done better to distract everything.
Yeah. And even like I would say in Epstein and Charlie Kirk, how many people do we have in positions of power that are doing anything about this? The fact that in the Charlie Kirk arena, you only have podcasters and journalists. Some say some are controlled op. Okay. But we don't have who's in actual power position that's doing anything about this. Nobody. And then if you look at the Epstein one, again, another one that is not on people's minds right now because of Maduro. Who do we have? When you look at this President Trump and you look at that video, that I think the moment of him standing there with Lindsey Graham on Air Force One on the very day that was Marjorie Taylor Greene's final day, where she threw the towel and says, I'm out. I can't do this anymore. I mean, there's something very just darkly significant and about that moment that just makes your stomach turn, that you have this guy who told his MAGA base back in 2015, he said, we're going to take on the imperialist state. We're going to undo the damage that Bush and Cheney did. We're not going to behave like this and police the world like this anymore. And then you fast forward to this moment. How is he standing there with Lindsey Graham as he's getting these other people out? And we know, you said earlier, Thomas Massie probably on his way out. How do we know he's on his way out? Because the challenger has already been endorsed and is being funded by Miriam Adelson. His name is Ed Galrain in Kentucky. He put this out. So Massie is on his way out too, because of the money being put in by the biggest Zionist of that campaign, which is Miriam Adelson, Ed Galrain. Don't forget the name. He's going to be the next guy. Again, that's how you get rid of people in power that actually were going to do something. And that's the only way we know as voters who's for real. The people that are for real are the ones that they show the door to. If they're not shown the door, well, guess what? They're not working for us from the first place. So that's it, Garland. It's Marjorie Taylor Greene's out, Massie's next out, and nobody's in power fighting for any of these things.
And in fact, how about this? Here we go. There's a sickness there. Trump tells Republicans there's something wrong with their colleague, Thomas Massie. Oh. There you go. There's something wrong with him. There we go. Massie claimed Trump's interest in Venezuela was primarily about oil and regime change. Well, that's madness.
Meanwhile,
you have
Lindsey Graham salivating at Cuba is going down. He's like, yes, Cuba's going down. Can't wait. More blood and death and destruction and stealing of stuff. Can't wait. Can't wait.
And guess what, Trump? Remember this? You vote for me. Why? Because the prices are too high. People that can't afford gasoline, and people can't afford to pay their rent, and people can't afford jobs, and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, Trump, you're in office. Okay, first of all, let's look out for Israel. Secondly, we got to overthrow some governments. Oh, we need an extra 150 billion for that. When he gets, here's the bottom line. Let me say this. For those of you who are still running around saying somebody, Venezuela, whoever the hell stole it from Trump in 2020, they had no reason to steal it from Trump. Look at Trump now and tell me they needed to steal it from him because he was so different from Biden. Because they had their man Biden, and Biden was going to do all kinds of neocon, terrible things or what have you. But if Trump got in, boy, he was going to raise hell. He was going to really make things different. Now, tell me, somebody out there, they really needed, the system was scared of Trump. They had to steal it from him. You couldn't have Trump in. Oh, he told us he was going after the deep state, didn't he? He told us he was going to arrest people for for Russiagate and this and that. And he was going to go after Alvin Bragg and this person and that person. And he was going to straighten out the CIA. Remember this? We got to clean out the CIA. Tulsi Gabbard, clean out the CIA. What's she tweeting? Good job, CIA. Great job in your regime change crap. So you may like to believe that Trump was so good. See, this was the narrative. They stole it from Trump. Why? Because he's so different. Because he would fight the machine. Then that way you vote for him 4 years. See what I mean? Think about it. They get Biden for 4 years. Then they get Trump for another 4. All they got to do is convince you, despite his first 4 years, they got to convince you that he's so different. And then they stole it from him because you knew he was going to upset the apple cart, and he gets back in and he's hugging with Lindsey Graham. They didn't steal it from him. The whole thing was a scam the whole thing was a game to make you think they stole it from him so he could get back in and he could be Joe Biden. And even I think he's losing his freaking marbles like Joe Biden.
Yeah, they really did play the long game here, Garland. Unbelievable. And yeah, the part of us kind of was hopeful. I mean, absolutely did not vote for the guy, but there was this like, is there something there? Were there hints of a populist dude? Was there hints of that the first term? Yes, there were hints. He got famously on Fox News and told the Fox News audience that we're no better than Russia. We've killed some people. He famously said that we're in Syria, a third of Syria, for the oil. That's why we're there. So these little moments where we're like, God, is this guy onto something? And then the base thinking, oh, when he comes in the second time, he's going to be smarter. He'll be able to do more of the stuff that challenging that stuff. No, it's the complete opposite. And yeah, I think you're right. I think this was a long game the entire way, little baits and switch and curveballs and faking people out. And here we are. And all we have left is, you indicated earlier, Garland, all we have left as they're playing their theater, as they're doing their little ensemble troupe, whose line it is anyway, routines. The only thing we have to ride on is our principles. And when we can apply those principles consistently, that's when we know that we can be on the right side of history every single time. It doesn't matter who we're defending or who we're calling out. We apply those principles equally, and we have some sort of moral compass as we take on this oligarchy into the future and find new ways to do that other than vote your way to change.
How about this? Oh, yeah, Trump's going to make a difference when it comes to the Russia. What do we get? Trump may raise tariffs on India very quickly if it keeps buying Russian oil. That was yesterday. So even all of this bull crap, Trump's going to try to end this thing. He understands Ukraine and he's going to try to stop this thing. He's working with blah, blah, blah. All he does is every so many months, he says, I understand Russia and I'm going to work with them and I'm going to get a deal. And that goes on for 30 to 60 days. And at that point, he says, I'm angry at Putin. He's killing people. We're going to have to bring him to the table with more sanctions, more whatever the heck it is. So, I mean, even now, he's gone back. We're going to sanction India for buying Russian oil. It's just pathetic what we're looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll say one last thing on the imperialism and the Venezuela and who's next. Who do we invade next? Who do we steal next? I just want to put one idea out to people that as greedy as we are, as narcissistic as we are, as world dominating mindset we are, that we can go around and steal whatever we want with no consequences, and we've been like this for decades and decades. We might be in a new era where on the surface, it looks like that we're cashing in on the oil or we're cashing in on the gold. It might not be as glamorous as it seems. I feel like the petrodollar is done. And what we might be doing here with Venezuela and all these other ones, we are struggling to hang on. And the thing that we don't, it's not that we are so much against other countries having business with the greatest oil ability in the planet, which is Venezuela. What we're upset about is that China, Russia, Iran are not using the petrodollar. That's the thing. So by stealing the oil, it's not so much for riches, it's to prevent our ultimate collapse, which is coming. It's not sustainable how we are. So if there's any condolence in that it's not really about buying more yachts and private jets, it might be about, this might be the way the oligarchy holds on to this power in the Western hemisphere just a little bit longer until the multipolar BRICS takes over the next stage of humanity.
Yeah, and even then, the only thing Trump has is a kidnapping at a press conference. Let me tell you, everybody out there in the chat, he ain't getting Venezuela. It's not going to happen. You can't go in there. They'll fight you. There are people that are armed by the millions. Yep. Maduro gave his people arms. Oh, wait a minute. He wouldn't do that, right? He's a dictator. Yeah. If a dictator armed the people, they'd immediately shoot him. You know why he armed them? Because they know which way to point they know who to point the guns at. And it's going to be you, Donald Trump, and anybody you send in there. So, which they can't. So bottom line is, literally, millions of people are given AK-47s. Millions. Imagine a country that says to its citizens, here's guns, here's bullets, you get some machine guns. They arm people by the millions and say, everybody's a part of the militias. Sooner or later, the Americans are coming. And when they come, we're all going to fight them. Isn't it interesting that the dictator doesn't take the guns from the people? He gives the people the guns. That's an that's an indication that he ain't a dictator, because they'd immediately shoot him because they support him. That's what I was there. I can tell you that it's a bunch of crap. He arms his people. What happened to conservatives here that are saying, yes, we should all have guns to stand up? A country that actually said and gave them AK-47s, a country that hands out AK-47s like cookies.
Yes, no, and if this is not just a recent happening, this is how they've been wired. This is their way of life. This is their culture. We know the colectivos who are in the streets right now in Caracas. This is the armed militia, the people's militia that's coming together by the hundreds of thousands, by the millions in some guesses, like you said. Yep. These people are trained for this. This is how it goes. They all consider themselves part of this militia the whole time, not just starting now. Their entire lives. They say, we are the colectivo. We are the Tupamaros. That's the one that we followed when we were in Venezuela. They would, when they drive by on their bikes, all the people in the town, they said, we are Tupamaros. They always identify with this citizen militia. So right now, more than ever, when push comes to shove, they will be in the streets. And I back that 1,000%, Garland. They're not standing down. They're not giving this up.
No, they're not. That's it. They ain't. This is what's going on.
Yeah.
The people are there by the millions. And all this crap you hear, I'll put it like this. They couldn't pay me enough money to go in there. Hey, Garland, we want you to go in there and work the oil fields. We're going to pay you $1 million a day. Dying ain't no way to make a living. It's Josie Wells did. Going in there, let me know if you're going to come back looking like Swiss cheese. Thanks a lot. Matt Weinglass, tell everybody where they can find you.
The Homeless Left. We're on Rumble. We're back. We're going to start up again next Tuesdays and Thursdays on Rumble. The Homeless Left on YouTube. I think we are going in the search engine again. Our new channel we've made it to the 1 year mark. The Homeless Left on YouTube. If you want to type it out, it's THL Presents on YouTube, but find us on both. We'll be back live twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, starting next week.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody, and certainly appreciate it. Even thanks to all of the bots and Zionists that are paid. You guys help fill out the chat. I mean, we wouldn't have this many people without you. So thanks a lot to even the bots and the Zionists who are there doing their thing. Remember, everybody, the most important thing you can do, if you like my show, Matt's show, any of these shows that you like, the most important thing you can do when you see a show in alternative media is share it on all your social media platforms. We're out.